This right here is my RAZOR SX500. This is not what the video is about, but this is currently my daily. So to fix that, I got this right here, which is another SX500. On this SX500 right here, I've thrown on some used parts, which is a split sprocket adapter, split sprocket, Soshin FW11 if I take off these plastics. I also have this 210mm D&M shock with some aftermarket grade 8 bolts. On the front end here, I have these Pro Taper bars, which I got with the bike. They're originally for KLX/DRZ110. So I'm either going to cut them down a lot or just switch them out on my other bike. Alright, so in this video, what we're going to do is take these forks off, put on some nice hydraulic 630mm forks, along with some upgraded bearings. And also, along with that, we're going to put in the Suron battery out of the other bike, and maybe wire in the far driver controller I have for this. Alright, so I've removed the front plastics. The front number plate here just has two clips that you push from the back to pop out. And then now what I'm going to do is remove the triples up here. To start doing that, I'm going to remove these handlebars. Alright, so now the handlebars are off. Just unbolted the four 6mm Allen head bolts that held down the risers. So I use a 17 for these, but it's really loose. Like, it's not the right size for the bolt. But these don't really get tightened too much in my experience, so they come off. I mean, yeah, I barely had to do anything. Alright, so both bolts are out, and we're going to use our 17 and a 6mm Allen on this stem bolt right here. Make sure your front axle and wheel is off. I made sure it was. And then line it up. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, the fork kit I have comes with this 15mm stem bolt and this conical bearing setup. So I'll show you how to pack these as well. But this should all just bolt straight in. But what we're going to have to do is take out these two bearings right here. With the conical bearing kit, you're going to get these right here, which will go straight in the same place that the old bearings went. What you're going to want is, you'll see it's tapered. Where the center diameter is smaller, you're going to want that at the bottom. Preferably, you would like to actually have a press kit for this. But personally, I'm going to use a 2x4, just like so, and lightly tap it all the way in. What the 2x4 is here for is to not damage this top edge right here. Alright, let me pick this back up. The frame was moving too much on the jack stands I have it on, so I had to move it onto the floor. But as you can see, this is all the way down in there, seated perfectly around all the edges. And then what we were avoiding with the 2x4 is mushrooming out the material right here, which would make it a lot harder on the bearings and possibly keep the bearings from moving completely. Alright, so now what we're going to do is pack these bearings right here. Alright, so I have both bearings right here, and then usually there's, I don't remember what it is, I think it's Loctite, or like red and tacky grease. But you're going to want to find some nice grease for this. Unless, I'm pretty sure some companies send grease with theirs. Don't quote me on that. But basically what you're going to do is get some grease, throw it on your hand like so. So what you're going to want to do is go around the whole bearing until it comes out the top like that. As you can see, right at the top right there, you can see where it's coming through. You're going to want to do that around the whole bearing. And once you've made sure that's come out all the sides like that, basically like this whole, all in between all these little bearings, the needles for the bearing are all filled. I'm going to just set that in there. And then onto the next one, and there we go. And now I am going to clean my hands off. Alright, so now that you have both bearings in there and packed with grease, make sure to do that. What I'm going to do is take my top triple clamp, slide my bolt through, and then there's some washers that go here. Fine there. Alright. And now what I'm going to do is, now that I wipe that off, put on these washers, put on the bottom triple clamp. And is this the correct nut? No. Make sure you have the correct nut. And not the one off the stock forks. Here's the correct nut that came with the kit. Bottom triple clamp. Okay. There we go. And I will go find the correct wrenches for this. Now what I'm going to do is, top is 17, and then seems like the bottom is a 3/4. There we go. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is install both risers. Crank those down. You do not want them to loosen while you're riding. And then now, I think I'm just going to put my Pro Taper bars back onto here. And what I'm going to do is take my bars. I'm basically going to do the same angle I have on my other bike. And there's that. Okay, so now we're going to slide the fork tubes in. Personally, what I'm doing for this is black on black. And this should be a little finessing. Alright, slide straight in. And now, these are 5mm lines. So I am going to, right. Which what I like about these, which you'll see on a lot of them, this is my favorite design, these 2 bolts on each of them. Let me show you. 2 bolts on each of these, because you can get it down pretty tight going from one bolt to the other. So I'll tighten this one, go back and forth until both are snug. Should look good. I actually got the original set of wheels for these green and white SX500s. So what I did is this little cap up here is right at this seam where it goes in. I have that seam flush with the top of the triple, and that's where I tightened it down. And there are some installed triples. Alright, so now I'm going to deal with the front wheel. We're going to throw this straight up in here. So you may need some different spacers. Alright, so you'd probably have to use some washers, but I have 2 spacers that are like perfect. But yes, if you want to do it, I definitely recommend you getting a bunch of washers. That'll make it super easy. Alright, so there's one thing I need to do before I put this front wheel on. And that is the front brake disc. It's a 180mm front brake disc. There's 6 bolts on the rim. You're gonna take all of those off. And if you have a stock brake rotor, take off the brake rotor. And here's that. All right. There we go. Now, take this and tighten it down. Alright, so now that this is tightened down, I am going to move on to the brake. Alright, so here is the front brake caliper, line, and lever I got, which that's all pre-bled. And I have this right over here, ready to show you how to install. Alright, so once again, the stock bike giving us the greatest of things to use with the stock bolts for the handlebar risers. Hopefully it should just bolt in place, because those bolts are M8 thread and they're longer. Alright, there it is. The stock handlebar riser bolts, which I'll show you where those go. They go in here, and the little bushings between the stock bearings are perfect spacing for the brake caliper with a stock wheel. Alright, so caliper is connected, and I think the last thing for this video I'm gonna do is mount up this brake lever. It should mount just straight right here. And yeah, I'd recommend zip tying this to your forks just so it's not flying around. And well, that's about it. So all these generic pit bike levers typically have 8mm bolts on the back. You just break those loose. They should just come out. This one's really tight. There we go. But yeah, there's the front brake. Feels really good, actually. Can't wait for the first ride video on this. That'll be really cool. Forks work really well. And yeah, shouldn't be too bad. This was the Mark Landian. Installed these pit bike forks and front brake caliper. Next video I'm going to do the rear end and the rear brake. Rear brake is going to be a lot easier because it's straight bolt on. But yeah, next video I'm going to do the rear. Got to mount the tire on that one and the brake caliper and everything back here. I have the other matching wheel for the back, and then let's see, battery, controller, that's about it. So yeah, like, share, subscribe. I'm gonna do a lot more on this. I'll see you on the next video.